One of the weirdest and most dangerous ideas in biology is not actually eugenics, but something you've never heard of. It's called recapitulation, and it still underpins a lot of racist and misogynistic thought today. But because it doesn't seem like anyone's actually heard of recapitulation, I thought I'd try to explain it here really quickly. So, recapitulation is the idea that, quote, higher organisms, as their embryos, actually pass through similar sort of like developmental stages as lower organisms. Stick with me, it's going to get kind of weird. So, one of the early drivers of this theory is the fact that human embryos in the fourth week of gestation actually grow this sort of structure that looks like gills. And this led early scientists to believe that, sort of like on the way to becoming a human, actually embryos sort of pass through this period where they're sort of like fish, right? They even said things like, well, they're kind of in the water too. By water, they mean embryonic fluid. But how does this lead to racism and misogyny? Well, after this idea took hold in the biological world, it was then exported to the social world. In its most succinct form, social recapitulation takes that evolutionary idea and basically says that white, higher children reach the level of maturity of non white adults before sort of moving on to adulthood and surpassing them evolutionarily. In the same way, this idea served to justify the fact that in the minds of white European men that white culture was fundamentally and naturally higher or superior to other non-white cultures. And the way this plays out today is kind of subtle. Like, on its face, the idea of infantilization doesn't seem racist or misogynistic, but it is. For instance, back in the day, scientists would say things like, children like colorful things, so any culture that likes colorful things must be a lower culture, aka like literally every non-European white culture. Similarly, the sort of scientifically misogynistic version would say that the female skull is more childlike, and thus women fundamentally must be on a lower sort of evolutionary plane than men. If you can think of more sort of instances of infantilization sociologically, let me know in the comments. Now, of course, not only is this idea super racist and misogynistic, but as Stephen Jay Gould has shown in this like incredible but super dense book, it's almost sort of not worth reading. But it's all premised on bad science, of course. Let me know in the comments if you've heard of recapitulation or of any other sort of examples of infantilization and how it sort of operates in this sort of racist and misogynistic, deep-seated ways.